Hi everyone, this is Lin Nguyen and welcome back to Lin Talks Tech. And today we have a special panel and I'm excited to introduce Mario as well as Nicholas and David Stavisski as well. We're on this together. Today's episode is talking about SAP's new API policy. I've got the screen share going on here. Is it a gatekeeper or the growth engine for AI innovation, right? So we are all kind of builders in the SAP space, and a lot of us have now built different applications integration into SAP, especially for AI and all the other use cases related to new innovations. So a couple of weeks ago, SAP formalized an API policy and introduced a stricter governance around the use of external applications, especially even though in the API policy that I have up here doesn't mention anything about AI, but we know it's kind of AI driven because, obviously partners have been integrating with SAP for many years and this policy has never been kind of come out like this. And timely, it's kind of like a month ahead of Sapphire. Integration between third party and SAP is not new, right? It's basically how the ecosystem works. And this episode kind of want to talk about experts, especially Mario, Nicholas, and David, that's been working on heavily with the AI integration with SAP and what it means for S4. Maybe they talk about S4 HANA here a lot, but obviously there's other application usage for AI that extend beyond just, the new S4 applications as well. And let's talk about the policy openly and then any constraints outside, the stack. Talk about BTP, what does that mean, as well as clean core. But just a little disclaimer, all of our opinions here of our own and not any company representation. So just a disclaimer that everybody's talking openly about this in the public. So welcome, guys. I think I want to kind of open up as kind of the framing of this episode. That what does this mean? What do you think it means? It's a little bit of gray area, a lot of discussion online. What it means, is it or authorized, not authorized, published or not published? So let's kind of go ahead and talk about some of this area. What do you guys think? First of all, I just want to open up. Maybe Mario, you want to go first in terms of what you understand.
Yes. So thank you for inviting me for this panel. So I would say that first and foremost, SAP is legitimate to control the access to its software, right? Especially for customers that are running on their managed service, right? So as a protective measure, they will need to take care of any protection on the environment that they consider that might affect any reasons of performance and security, right? That being said, because this is not, it's not anything that SAP has not been publishing for other softwares before, right? So the way that I see is that until now, where are we coming from? SAP was publishing notes or documentation explicitly forbidding the access through a determined number of APIs. And this document essentially takes a different angle. And what it does is it says something similar, but in a different way. So it says only the allowed APIs are the ones that you can consume, and any non-published API is forbidden, right?
Mhm.
The problem that this generates is much confusion right now, right? Because you have essentially blocked access to even ways to consume the software, which until now was allowed, right? And yeah, well, in lieu of system modernization, customers, mostly customers, right, and also partners, but for any customer perspective, because there is no way to certify any software from SAP which access through these kind of methodologies before. So from a partner perspective, you were not going to develop any software that was going to make you rich, right? But from a customer perspective, that was allowed to do, for example, ODP consumption, right? And under this new policy, it's not allowed to do that, right? So what I would say is that this announcement, in the terms that it has been published, generates a lot of confusion in the customer base, and yeah, the user groups are also being vocal about it.
So they talk about the SAP Business Accelerator Hub. That's where kind of the API hub.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are familiar with this? I think the open calls to this via that hub is published. So I guess my question, because we are partners, we don't wait for always what SAP does and then we follow. I mean, we tend to innovate in and around, and we partner with SAP, but at the same time, there are, obviously pitching our own solutions for integration. So one of the things I kind of are curious about is how much of this API hub you guys are actually using today. So what's new in this policy? Yes, we know it's not new that SAP come out with something around API usage, but now they're saying that only the new publication of this document say you have to go through this official channel. But then that means they are using back channels and we're not able to use back channels, right? So obviously they're inside from a dual perspective, BTP integration using probably ability to integrate and innovate while we are kind of on outside only able to use release API. So I don't know what's your take on that? Maybe Nicholas, since you've been building, and then again, I should introduce Nicholas. He has this ABBA pilot solution out there that is a third-party integration for doing AI extension. So maybe Nicholas, you can start introducing a little bit. I know you been very vocal out there in the community, and I think this is a good one that you can talk about. So what does this mean? Anything different for you based on this published API type policy?
Yeah, thank you, Lynn, first for inviting me, and thank you guys for joining also. And yeah, in relate to that, when I started building this about end of last year, more or less, was my idea was mostly focused to ECC because I knew that SAP was focusing on the BTP roadmap, and that was clear. But also, I more or less knew that there was a kind of customer that were still on ECC and they didn't have any SAP for AI right for them. So I started to build on that area.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say my architecture was using the SICF node that is something technical, but it's very known in the SAP community, HTTP communication and custom endpoints. And within these endpoints, I could use APIs that SAP provide. Some of them could be the release ones, and some of them maybe not. For example, like there is a lot of discussions on LinkedIn about ADT tools. So ADT tools are basically the APIs that Eclipse uses to connect SAP with your, let's say, to connect Eclipse with your SAP landscape. And they are mostly used for developers to build, create reports, or to send data to your SAP. And these are not published APIs. These are ADT, are internal SAP usage tools. But everything in the innovation space, which is happening within AI in the community, is around these ADT tools, which are not part of the published APIs. So this like directly impacts a lot of projects, which are maybe products. Some of them are open source, some of them are not. But if there is no clear, let's say, what will happen if we still use it? Because right now it says it's forbidden, but it's not saying what will happen if you don't use it. One of the, let's say, things that I may think about is that if SAP decided to change the signature of the API, change some parameter or something, and they don't let you know that this happened, they are not entitled to do it because they are not published, they are not documented, and they can do it. And this may break your product that you build around these APIs. So that's one way of seeing that they have.
Yeah. So I guess with this is nothing new. We always been integrating with BABIs and RFCs and function modules, etc. SAP has always had this stand against certain things. They try to force you through. I know the ICCs like the certification group inside of SAP. They even disbanded that because the speed that they can integrate or certify partners on integration is got a lot more complex, and it's just doesn't stand itself as an island anymore. So this policy seems to apply, a lot on S4 because the API hub itself, you are integrating to ECC, for instance, that's where you need a lot of the customers still on ECC. That's where you need to keep up for innovation. But a lot of this API hub stuff only works with the new S4, as you say, latest and greatest and BTP, which doesn't seem relevant at all for customers, especially I think if we integrate and we're providing a wide range of SAP releases and deployment type, how they can use new innovations, right? So I think from that perspective, I don't really think this API policy is really relevant at all. What do you guys think? Maybe David. We've been working on all versions of SAP, right? Not just S4. So I mean, if we're talking about where we've been integrating with SAP specifically, does this API policy seem to affect at all what most builders are doing?
Yeah, I mean, that's been a case forever, right? So as you mentioned, the SAP speed of innovation with APIs is pretty much stagnant. There's no speed, it's zero, right? They're not releasing news. If you based on that, your development and your innovation, you don't have any. So we, for example, been pretty active in creating our own layer of APIs. And we're talking about on-system, on-prem integrations. We're not talking about public, exposing it to public and stuff like this.
Private cloud.
I mean, this though.
Yeah, SAP is basically just saying,
Or physical, it doesn't matter really. It's the same technology. But yeah, we were creating our own layers because just otherwise you can't get that data. Do we expose them to the public? No, we use them internally. But has been what 15 years at least, right? So I don't see anything changing drastically now. They formalize it. Big question: are they going to police it?
Well, that's an interesting thing. What is the control and how they're gonna basically monitor? That's what I see here in terms of what they're trying to do is publish some kind of general guide how we're gonna police the so-called monitor, right? How do you monitor AI usage? I mean, from a technical standpoint, SAP always have this facility called UConn, which basically looks at all programs interfacing with SAP, what programs get called, and et cetera, et cetera. But is that really going to be, like say, for instance, if you were doing a licensing audit, it's mostly user-based and, how many users, what type of users, but they don't really today look at all the calls that come into SAP from third-party integration.
But you do that. So sorry to interrupt. You do that if you wanna meter. This is not metering. This is forbidding, right? So they don't need to meter. They just need to forbid, and that's it, right? So the way that I prefer to frame it is that if you look what ServiceNow and Salesforce, which might be two of the biggest competitors, they have done, right? They are building systems of agency, and these systems of agency massively communicate using all the new protocols that you have over there, right? So they communicate using CLIs, MCPs, APIs, whatever the agent can get access to is gonna do that. SAP, it's been a while since they released this indirect access, right? But if you look at the indirect access foundation, it's mostly when something is creating data in SAP. It was never, let's say, designed to consume the data, especially when you are not replicating the data out of SAP, when you are not doing massive extraction of data, because creation of data was not prohibited, but it was controlled. Massive extraction of data, that's also forbidden. It's being forbidden for some time right now. Now it's the consumption of SAP using third-party APIs, right? This is what this new API policy, and that's the way that I think that SAP is trying to prevent that these agentic frameworks that may exist in the market right now that can massively interact with SAP and become SAP kind of a system and let SAP become a system of record, period, right? This is what I believe that they are preventing. I don't think that they are going to be, let's say, policing, controlling that any particular customer is doing more calls than they should be doing, right? So I would prefer to look at this as this is a preventive measure from building a system that is going to massively interact with SAP and bring SAP to obsolescence in a matter of months, because it can be like this way, or Palantir, right?
Yep.
AIP.
Yeah.
I mean, I see that, of course, from a legal standpoint, they can say, yeah, we can disable, we can suspend, we can throttle, we can take enforcement actions. But as we know, from a legal standpoint, it's really not a practical standpoint. Even monitoring is an issue. How do you control it? So I hear everyone talking about, today, I guess it applies that we continue to build. From a builder standpoint, I guess I want to hear a little bit more in-depth information about, let's call the AI third-party vendor ecosystem. How does it affect your design today? What you do? Have you thought about how you would structure your design, just even based on what this policy statement says, from how data consumptions, how do you interact with ABAP layer versus maybe database layer versus non-published API that there's always some useful things that you can call that are not published. Do you stop using that? So kind of want to hear what you guys, because SAP has all these consumption levels, right? You can do all data, you can do CDS views, you can do event-based integration today with BTP. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, maybe on that area, what I think is that it's important for customers to keep the data within their control. I mean, if they're using AI, if they can actually control that the data and whatever is going outside their organization, it's also controlled by them, and it's not, let's say, on a third-party system on another cloud server where they are just feeding with their own SAP data. I think that should be differentiated with different ways of how you interact with SAP. So if their customers can run something in within their networks with their own infrastructure, but use the AI actually to really, let's say, provide intelligence in the way they with data, for example, to get reports out of the box without needing some development, or even providing their developers team with some tools to be able to build faster. I think that shouldn't be prohibited in a way that SAP is something, if it happens within the customer landscape, I don't think they have the, let's say, the right area to forbid that. Maybe when you talk about these things that you consume information from SAP and you send it to an external system, and then that is not very clear where the data governance happens.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe in that area is where SAP will put the eye on, and where we should be more careful as builders on how we do things. I think that's important.
So let's say today you're going to ask SAP to provide a lot of data for AI to process and to analyze and then to make recommendations or take some actions related to some business process, right? If you're doing directly and extracting that data, like you say, analyze it outside, there is a performance, there's a latency beyond the API itself, right? There's obviously taking data out, analyzing it, doing something, coming back. Versus if, let's say, you were doing directly what SAP support with all data, or, like I say, with all the things that they have inside. So now if you drive SAP harder by interacting with it and telling it, hey, provide me this data inside SAP, and doing all that, maybe even making SAP call you and providing that information externally. There is, I think that thing is the design perspective, whether we actually move the workload like SAP did when they introduced S4HANA. It's like, hey, I'm going to push a lot of what I can do down to the database because it's, faster as opposed to doing it in ABAP. And this is kind of similar thing. If you changing policy, maybe as designer, we force SAP to drive the workload inside and use its compute, use its connected system and integration to provide us the data we need for the customer's use. Does that sound like something that would happen in a design of new solutions, just because this API stuff is, getting more complicated?
I would assume that what you just described, Lin, is because SAP sees that APIs is causing a performance issue to the underlying architecture, right? That would be the only reason that they will need to change the architecture into something else. I don't think that this is the purpose of this document, to be honest. I don't think that this is SAP saying, oh, guys, sorry, we built too many APIs. It's being widely used. Let us think, how do we re-architect our software?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, I agree with Mario. I think they just, the ship is sinking, and they just trying to say, water, you cannot enter the hole, right? But it's not. It's more applicable to really their motivation, at least as it appears, because we don't know for sure. More appears what Mario said, massive amount of data, business data being pulled out by these agentic platforms and making SAP obsolete to an extent, maybe not completely, but.
Not only that, David, let me extend a little bit of what you say. If you massively consume ServiceNow, who is going to know ServiceNow? Why? Because it's pure SaaS. If you massively consume Salesforce, who knows Salesforce? Who can cut the access to everybody in a minute? Salesforce. Can you do that in SAP? No. Why? Because some systems are hosted, but some others are not. What do? They publish a note, right? Because they cannot. There are many systems that they don't control. So the way to do it is this way. I don't think that they do that because the SAP is going into any significant situation right now. This is preventive. This is to prevent from something that maybe has not happened yet, right? But it can happen. It can happen. Or it's already happening, but in a small scale, and they see it, and they don't want to make it even a bigger hole, right? That you're gonna, because if you, there are so many SAP APIs. So it's funny because whenever you build an MCP or you look at any MCP from any software in the world, you look at the MCP, quite simple. Even the API from OpenAPI compared to SAP APIs is very simple. Sorry, OpenAI. It's very simple to compare to it. And SAP has dozens of thousands of APIs. What I mean with that is that APIs, it's been there for a while, right? But you can do many, many, many things in SAP with APIs, right? So essentially, when SAP says, and I'm just paraphrasing what Christian Klein mentioned during the earnings call, and this topic was brought because the API was leaked just before the earnings call, right? And he was asked during the earnings call about it. He said performance, right? Well, could be security, fair point. But he also said, and also SAP needs to protect its own IP. And it's like, at least we're being honest here, right? And on that point, right? SAP is on his own complete right to defend its own IP, right? The question is if this is maybe a little bit too much because it's affecting how even customers have been building things that they were allowed 2 weeks ago. And now it's completely forbidden. So, for example, consuming no data, right? Consuming no data has always been, let's say, one of the things that SAP has said. I know that you're not going to massively extract your data out of SAP system using no data because it's not performant to that extent, right? But what happens now that you have an army of agents that can work 24 hours from multiple computers, calling APIs from SAP that can really take a significant amount of the IP of SAP out of the system effectively.
So let me follow up on that. So yes, they can protect their IP, but let me ask you a different question, maybe this one openly, right? So now the question comes up, SAP customer should own their data, right? They run SAP is a software, but who owns the data? They create the data, the business, transactions, right? They are the owner of that data. If they are not allowed to analyze it or use it or, do whatever decision support they need, right? So that's another question. Like if you own the data and you restrict on how you can use that data, that's another.
And you use it. SAP is not preventing you to use the data. It's only preventing you to access that data using an API, right? Which is a protocol that uses SAP technology to access that protocol. So in the end of the day, you are still owner of the data. What I'm only forbidding you is to access to that data using a particular protocol.
So is that leads me to the BTP question. Is this a road to force you to BTP?
But Lin, if you look at data and analytics, it's been like that for years, right? And now the only way to consume SAP data, it's going to be through data products that until today, tomorrow it might change, you cannot replicate a data product because a data product is SAP IP. Within the data product belongs to the customer, but you cannot replicate the data product because it has SAP IP. So what I want to say with that is that SAP already tells customers, yeah, it's your data. You can use it, consume it, right, within my platform, but you cannot extract it. Until now, you could extract it using DataSphere, right? But going forward, I mean, DataSphere is still allowed, but data products cannot be extracted using DataSphere. You replicate a table using a replication flow, but not a data product, right? But that happened with data, and this is going around other layers of the data, not the analytical data itself, more transactional.
Back to my question. Do you think it's driving SAP is like, okay, everything you will consume for AI purposes or most of it will be through BTP, the integration suite to, a data sphere, basically it's forcing you down that route. If you want to use it, here's the route to use it from SAP because it's going through published API, going to SAP supported implicit
products.
BTP, right? That's my question.
Yeah, but I think that is part of the, sorry.
Sorry, Nicolas, I already capitalized too much. So
no.
Go ahead.
It's part of SAP roadmap, right? They're trying customers to migrate to S4 to use BTP. And I think that closing maybe this channel for APIs is another way of making you do that, right? And to think about, okay, let's move to BTP. There are alternatives out there, but if we close those channels, customer will not have any other option to go to BTP. And that is more or less, let's say, vendor lock-in, and that's what SAP does. And I think it's fair because they are on the right to do it, but it's also doesn't leave much other options to customers. I mean, they have to align with what they provide.
But one of the questions, and maybe I got it wrong, one of the questions that I get immediately after the release of this document was from a customer saying, but can I consume the APIs through, for example, integration suite, or if I use in AI core, right? If my NCP server is deployed in BTP, can I consume it? The way that I see is no. I mean, this document is only, I mean, it does not allow you to do it if you do it on BTP. It only allows you to consume those APIs, which are non-published, if they are SAP software consuming it, but not if it's your software, even if it runs on BTP. So it's not a measure that it's moving customers to BTP.
Yeah,
right?
but the main question, all of this is, did it stop anyone doing this? Ever? Because, I mean, it's all legalese, really. Yeah, the German company, they say it's verboten, right? But I don't know. In the US, the attitude is very different. I mean, it's there. The customer's going to use it.
Yeah, well, that's an user group discussion to be hosted. I am sure that in the coming Sapphire in the US, because in the one in Europe does not include the user groups explicitly, but the one in the US does. I am sure that this topic is going to be addressed with SAP, and they will need to be clarified. So one of the hopes that I have is that this document is in version 1, right? And it's going to be, let's say, addressed soon and limited soon. Maybe they will put limits. Maybe they will say on a number of calls, right? That will go to your point, Lin. If this is because of performance, then you limit on the number of calls. If this is because of security, then you need to make it secure. And then now they are going to publish something on integration suite called Gateway. Maybe you can do it through the gateway, right? To make it secure and all of that. Okay, check, right? But they will need to address this. Because if SAP does not address it, how are you going to do clean core?
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's kind of what SAP, as I put the statement out, you have to question, is it introducing more compliance or is it more flexible? As a partner, I would say we have to tread carefully, as we always have to design solution that is not going to work just with one version. So like today, if you create a third-party solution, you have to work with many different SAP releases and many different SAP deployment types. If you are locked into this kind of API, you have to basically follow like S4. If you want an add-on on S4 2025, you have to be compliant every time they do something. They have an enhancement pack update. Everything is now you are compliant on their level. Versus if you're building something, let's say you're building your own ABAP code, as an add-on to SAP. You're calling that's not SAP's unpublished API. That's your API. I would say that's also the design decision, right? So I know from a partner dilemma standpoint, we always have to balance between compliance versus kind of competitiveness. We always want to say, hey, our solution does this can do fast, can help with all this customer scenario, all versions. So you have to balance that off. And I think this whole policy thing, I want to go beyond just saying, legalese, but what does practically mean for how you design your access, how do you design your support, and the speed of innovation versus also openness, like market reach, right? All that. So SAP itself has basically determined that it will only support certain versions of things to work on Joule, for instance. Capability will roll out onto new public cloud, eventually make it down to private cloud, S4. So that's not lightning speed in my experience. And I've been at ASUG local chapter groups, and they're expressing similar kind of concern that, hey, you're releasing this, but we can't use it because you have to be upgraded to this and that. That's why there's a partner community building things that are available for customers. So I think this whole policy just raises the question, right? Okay, if you are a vendor today, a third party, sometimes you have to decide for the customer's benefit what is best, and not be so attached to compliance with this, because compliance with this means you won't be able to compete in the market, and you would just go away altogether. And that's kind of my question. I don't know if that's true or not, but I say for being a independent partner, we work with SAP, but we also have to compete and with all partners as well, right? So we kind of friends, and we also compete as well. What do you take? Because all of you guys have a third party and also working inside projects with SAP customers, right? Nicholas, what do you see right now with customers asking you, how can I use ABAP Pilot? Can I not use it? What does that mean for you in the design?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, when I started with this approach that it was more HTTP and custom endpoints, I think in a way I'm still compliant with what SAP says, but it's still not clear because I'm waiting for a version 2 of the document to can answer more questions. And to be honest, I'm not sure what will happen, but I'm pretty confident to go in that direction because I think it solves issues at this moment, customer pain points. And I have a few examples that they are saying we are on ECC, we don't want to migrate even after 2030. So we need something that can help us today. We don't need to wait. And I think that is where I fit in, let's say our product fit in. It's something that I don't know if SAP will maybe provide in a future. Maybe they will take some of these architectures and try to also handle these, let's say, gaps that are missing, like ECC customers, on-prem S4, and these kind of different hybrid models. So to be honest, I'm still waiting. So let's see after Sapphire, and maybe I can give you another answer.
Maybe more cloudy. I don't know. Version 2,
Yeah.
version 1.1 is not even out yet, so I don't know about version 2. I guess my other question is, does it stop us doing anything? I think we all go 100% or 200% ahead. What do you think? I mean, we not really concerned as partners or builders, right?
I don't think so. I mean, if we are actually solving something that customers need, why shouldn't we stop? I mean, it's something they are validating the solution. They're saying, yeah, we want to use it. And SAP cannot provide me this at this moment. Maybe in the future it does, but I don't know. I don't think we should stop.
Okay. All right. Mario, what are you building? Is it affecting you at all?
Well, one of the things that we built, which is the MCP for DataSphere, is not affected by this policy because DataSphere is one of the products that, because of the nature of being kind of the new product, and you cannot extend by yourself on that product. Every API on DataSphere, it's a published API. So that does not affect, right? And I also don't commercialize that software, lucky me, right? So I don't make any money out of that. But I would say, yeah, for the purpose of the humanity, right? Same as Marianne, which was one of the first to highlight the importance of this new API policy, right? But that does not mean that we are actively helping customers to solve complicated issues using these kind of softwares, right? I would be nervous if I were one of the SAP partners that they do significant amount of money with the third-party tools, right? Because that leaves big limbo right now if these solutions can be used or not. Of course, any third-party tool uses APIs to access SAP at a certain point in time, even if it's an RFC, API, or whatever it is. Right? So I would say that the softwares that have been I mean, and we are here creating a lot of hypotheses. My first thing is that I don't think that this announcement from SAP has any clear intention to harm any of SAP customers per se, right? Customers are always well protected by SAP. As I said in the beginning, this could be more as a reason to protect SAP from other, I don't even want to call it partners, but let's say competitors that are in the market. We say ServiceNow, Salesforce, Celonis, right? That these softwares could be massively using APIs to do things like process mining. These are big affection, right? But you cannot do process mining using the published APIs. That will be completely, even for Signavio, but Signavio is an SAP application, so it's out of the policy, right? ETL, data extraction tool, right? If ever ETL had a single point of entry to consume SAP data that was using OData, now it's been even forbidden, right? So even consuming the SAP data for extraction, even if it's not massive extraction, but you were using published OData, that's an API, so it gets affected. Test automation tools, right? Call it Tricentis. I don't know if this kind of document makes any distinguish between endorsed apps, Solex extension, right?
That's a good point. Yeah, that's
Panaya is as affected as Tricentis. Even Tricentis is a Solex extension, to my understanding, right? Or endorsed app, right? Cybersecurity, Monapsis, security breach. These kinds of software, by nature, they're gonna be actively trying to consume published and non-published APIs from SAP
heavily
from a
integrated.
security perspective. From a security perspective, right?
Yeah.
So this is not only affecting the agentic AI, right? That's the point that we mentioned in the beginning of the podcast, right? The way that this is, and I believe I agree with Nicolas. Version 2 of the document needs to appear, right? And it will happen. I'm sure that it will happen. It will be soon. And I don't know your thoughts about it, but if I had to guess, if we were in poly markets and we had to create a poll, I would say that SAP is going to ease the policy. It needs to be eased. It needs to be clarified. It needs to be, let's say, made a little bit more to the point, right? And it cannot be that generalistic. Otherwise, it's gonna be too much of disruption to the entire market.
It's
right?
somewhat
Even its
reminiscent of their announcement about RISE and AI, right? I mean, you have to be on RISE and be 2027, blah, blah, blah. It took many years and customers were doubtful if they're going to fully kind of make them compliant by making them upgrade, go to RISE before they get benefits of all these AI, Joule. Today, there's still an open debate. And I think as far as I know, only 15% of customers have actually migrated to RISE. And so that's a significant amount that's not. So I think something like this Titanic type shift they're trying to put out, I agree they will need version 2. I'm not sure that would satisfy unless an interesting question I come up with, a kind of fun one, right? So if it is going to allow partners solutions on SAP Store, right? For instance, we publish quite a few apps on SAP Store as a partner, and SAP actually resell that. How do you include that in the ecosystem? Or do you just wait for SAP to buy you and say now,
if I could
SAP
say,
apps?
I think in the document says that APIs that are, let's say, I don't know if they call it certified or verified or something like that in the document. It's allowed, right? So as long as SAP verifies the APIs that you want to consume and you have a stamp, it's going to be okay. But the point that I was trying to make is that many of these softwares, I don't know the current specifics about the SAP certifications. Can you look for verify here?
Yeah, let me see. I don't think that says anything.
Customers and partners are required to verify that each endpoint for documented is published API. So yeah, when I say verify is that when you go through your certification program and you
That's an
have your
SAP.
software, at least it's verified by SAP, right? We can go into a discussion, right? A legal discussion because this is legal, or if my API is verified by SAP or not, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at least there is a little bit of pathway here. But the point that I want to make is that not only in the certification program, last time I checked, you are not only entitled to use the APIs of your software itself, right? The SAP tells you this is what you can do, this is what you cannot do.
Mm-hmm.
And especially consuming SAP APIs which are not published is not one of the things that they forbid you to do from a published software, right? So yeah, I don't know. I'm not an expert in that field.
Yeah, well, this is a fun exercise. Like I say, we luckily are not that far. By the time this episode is published, we'll likely have some clarification from SAP at Sapphire. We are a couple of weeks before Sapphire, and I think the user group, I know local user groups are already having this discussion. And as you said, Mario is at SAP Sapphire all the time, a big booth there. So it will be the customer's voice. I guess my question, and again, we work with SAP customers of all sizes and shapes and places. I think the customer voice will be very important. If they want, to use a third party today, or they want to build something today, and there's many of them that raise the voice, I think that will be a loud opinion that SAP needs to listen to. Obviously, they are ultimately paying the bills for consumption and also the licensing of the usage. So what does customer care about, right? They want to care about their ability to run the business optimally and be competitive in the market. If somebody else is using, let's say, a competitor product of SAP and it's very open and it does everything and they can integrate with it, this is a danger zone, I say, for customers as well as SAP, because customers can migrate. Just like in the old days where they went to alternate CRM applications, they went to different data warehousing applications and even ERP applications because they are maybe more open to integration and third-party solutions. So I think this is another juncture where SAP customers will have to voice their opinion. Friction well expressed in the market will have kind of a channel of its own. And I don't know if you're working with customers today. I know you mentioned, Mario, you guys already configure a bunch of dual usage for customers, right? Have they voiced anything interesting to you?
No, well, I have had a discussion with a customer that built their own MCP, and the question they raised is, well, will I be saved if I host my MCP server inside of BTP? Right, to prevent from this API policy from there. I mean, my answer to that question, if I'm being honest with you, is always check with SAP. Right, I'm not an SAP voice, but in my opinion, right, that won't save the day because it's not giving you the answer of you cannot consume the APIs from S4HANA if you don't do it through integration suite. That's not the purpose of this document, right? So I would say that this is the only way to get an answer right now officially is from SAP. But I also doubt that any SAP representative these days can give you an answer different from what it's published, right? The published document is two things. It's very short and very explicit, right? So what it is what it is. So right now the policy is that one. Now the question, as Nicolas was asking, is how far is SAP willing to go to enforce it on day one, right? Because they published it like a couple of days ago. I still think, as I said in the beginning, that this is a preventive measure. So SAP is trying to prevent something from happening until they release something that is going to be quite compelling for customers to build a story and to better explain, right?
Yeah.
So I think this is the goal. But you raise a very valid point here, Lin, on the competitors, because I also want to make a little bit vocal here that you saw the announcement from Salesforce a couple of weeks ago that they launched one, I don't want to say landscape framework or whatever you want to call it, framework that it's completely non-UI, right? It's absolutely open to any kind of protocol model and MCP server and API access from the inside and from the outside. And Salesforce is another system of record. So if you are a customer, you are in the, I don't know, in the supply chain, and you have your product built on top of SAP, and then you are competing against someone that is in the supply chain as well, but their product is mostly built on top of Salesforce, right? Now, with these kind of things, you will only keep up to the level of innovation to the other guys if you build everything using SAP software, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you really believe that SAP is going to giving you the complete suite of innovation for your supply chain, right? That will be the only way, because no third party is going to be able to help you in any way with the current limitation. While Salesforce is taking a complete different approach, right?
Right.
Is that I am the system of record. I open up my system. I'm gonna be open to any language model application, any AI agent. Come here, use me, because I'm also gonna use you, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's complete different approaches. What
Yeah,
SAP.
I think that you're right. I think a competitor landscape today is much different than before. Before you have maybe one or two main
One UI.
ERP vendors. Maybe you have HR. Like, today even the Workday itself is now an ERP vendor. They have finance application, right? If you talk about Microsoft, right, the Dynamics, and they obviously have big relationship with all the AI vendors. So I think the landscape, competition-wise, is very, very big and very competitive today. And I think aggressively on AI front. I think my personal opinion on this is that if SAP doesn't meet the customer where they are today, then partners will. Partners will step up to build what SAP customers demand, what they need, regardless of what SAP policies are about not only API, but S4 and RISE and everything else along with that, right? So I think that's from a partner. My talking to customers is really telling us, hey, this doesn't exist today. I would like a partner to build it for me, and if you guys can do that, I would consume it. So that's I think my thought on that. So let's talk about then, I guess, my outlook on this. Let's talk about if nothing changes today, right? And we're saying everybody's going to defend that they are compliant. My default partner stance is that, hey, we're compliant because we're doing this, and it's illegal. You can defend your technology based on the angle that you see appropriate, and I think that's kind of right now until it's more clarified. Does it sound like we will work around until there's a more clearer solution, a more clearer statement, a support statement, right? We will just work with it or work around it. Is that something that's fair to say?
Yeah, from my side, I think so. I think that's the approach many of the partners that are trying to build something are going to take. And yeah, I'm in this. I'm also with Mario with saying that SAP is preparing the land for something that will happen maybe in the future. I think, my personal opinion as well is that when Joule came out, and then also many people started doing their own MCP servers, open sourced, they started to see that there are a lot of things to be done that maybe gave better results than even Joule was having. And I think, I'm not sure, it's just a speculation. I'm not in SAP. I don't know what will they say, but maybe they're trying to do something on their own on this approach, maybe more MCP focus, more API consumption level based. And this API policy is trying to prepare us for what it will come. And we need to wait until we see it. But I think that's maybe the approach they will take.
Good. I actually see another thread online, and it's kind of interesting that somebody is like, hey, maybe this was just all a marketing ploy, right? To put something out, to stir up emotions, to get more customers, more people, partners to go to Sapphire. What do you think?
Will be very, I don't know, like movie wise. I'm not sure if they're.
Yeah. So we
Yeah.
put out something viral, people go crazy, and then they like, oh, we gotta show up at Sapphire this year. Maybe because attendance may be low or something. They want to get more people.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect that from German companies.
You don't?
They lack a sense of humor.
Oops. By the way, it was leaked, and Mario was right. People said this was supposed to be only talked about later, maybe on the earnings call, but it was leaked, and I'd say purposely leaked in order to drive more attention to the earnings call, and now it's more drive people attention to this Sapphire event coming up. So in any case, I appreciate all of your time today, and I wanted to kind of take this moment. Thank you for all you guys do in the SAP ecosystem, integrating and talking about partnerships and innovations around inside, outside of SAP and the wider world of today is IT, right? It's not just SAP anymore. We talk about very big with AI opening up to especially the large language model that can connect and make sense of things outside SAP as well. And I think that for Nicholas, I would say, yes, I think ECC customers are kind of underserved today for what's coming with the AI kind of innovation. So I think the partner ecosystem is very keen on giving customer what they need today, where they are. We certainly are at IT-Conductor. We think, I would say, only very small amount of people are on latest and greatest, 2025 S4 on Rise. Majority of people do need help in innovating where they are today. And at the same time, they can stay clean buying an integration, a third party that can help them stay compliant as well, right? So it's not just innovating for the sake of putting something new out, but doing it in a way where they can feel safe that they'll be compliant in some sense. So as far as Mario, keep putting free stuff out there, your MCP server. Appreciate you being on here. You have your own podcast, and we enjoy talking to you on your own episode as well. And my other theme is none of this stuff makes SAP any more simple, right? It makes it even more complex. I had a question before, like there's all this stuff make it more simple for them with going to Rise and BTP. Question is none. And I think that's kind of still the case here. A lot of unknowns, but it's kind of fun. I don't think I had this much fun working for over 20 years.
I totally agree with you, but I will also say something. It would be funny if it's not serious stuff here, and that for real, because if SAP makes things complicated, then in an ideal world, then companies get created, like Nicolas' company and your company as well, to solve the complexity, right? And to help the customer overcome those complexities. And that's the way that the world evolves. But having policies like this, right, it's gonna directly affect companies that are newcomers. Newcomers, when I mean that they are brand new in the space, that have been created in the last months, that came to solve one problem that it's also an SAP problem, right? Which is, for example, clean core, ABAP optimization using AI agents. So Nicolas mentioned that his primary purpose is to help ECC customers. ECC customers, right? I don't think that SAP would have any intention to harm customers that are on ECC to become modernized.
Agree.
But effectively, policies like this can go in that direction, right? And they can really harm a customer on ECC that could be potentially be modernized using AI agents, right? So that's why, for sure, I would go to Polymarket and bet my money that a new version of the document is gonna come and is gonna ease some of these policies, because certainly it makes no sense from many angles. Makes complete no sense.
And by the way, Polymarket, interesting fact. Okay, just you mentioned it. I think that only 3% of people make money on it.
Really, let's be the top 1%.
It's mostly
I just need
the
to be the
AI
first.
bots, because they're putting bets using AI algorithms, and the rest of us putting bets loose.
Yeah.
I only need to have 1% and be in that 1% to make the money.
Or those who have inside knowledge, right?
I would say
When
AI
the
bots
leak-
have it now. They're probably digging around all the local repository inside companies and getting the.
Let's find the guy that leaked the document, and that guy is gonna probably he's gonna get access to the version 2 as well.
Well, thank you for joining us for another episode of Lin Talks Tech, and I'd look forward to seeing you guys. Maybe are you going to Sapphire, Mario? You are? Okay.
Yes, I'm gonna see Roger Federer, my friend. So
Okay.
I'm playing a game with him on
Excellent.
the last day, on
Nice.
13, after his talk.
Oh. Are they going to have a court inside of the convention center? Or are you playing virtual?
I'm always playing local. He's my guest.
Oh, cool. Very good. Very good.
I'm in better shape than him. That being said, and maybe he's a little bit more technical, but I have my chance.
Okay.
Few
Just
people can
wear
say
the
that.
AI glasses. You have a superior advantage. All right. Well, guys, I love to collaborate with you, and I think I really enjoyed this episode. We'll talk to you again in the next episode, huh? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, guys.